Welcome, everybody, to the Armchair Racers Podcast, Episode 2. I can't believe we made it this far, to be honest with you. Uh,
Honestly, it's a shock.
yeah, it really is. Um, I'm Kenny Kibbe, along with Austin Belkey, and we are your two hosts of this podcast. And, yeah, I mean, let's get rid of the fluff and let's get right into it. Starting out with our news. Um, why don't you start off with it, Austin, while I find the spot in the outline?
Sure, man. So the first one is Chase Elliott is going to be doing the Snowball Derby. That should be a fun time. One of the premier short track races in the country. He's going to be doing it with James Finch. That should be a good time. He's a two-time winner. 2011 he won, and then 2015. So he's looking to make this his third win in the event. In case you don't know, it's going to be December 2nd to the 6th at Five Flag Speedway. Should be a good time.
I think Grant Infinger is entering into that too. I know the ARCA East race, I think that they had there, he ran. Or maybe it was just flat out ARCA, just regular ARCA race. Um, I think he's going to be in there. There was somebody else, relatively big name, that was getting in there too, and I can't remember who it was. But Snowball Derby was quite interesting last year. Last year was the first year that I followed. Um, and it was, I don't know, kind of, I forget who won. Geez, I'm terrible at following these stats, but um, it's interesting that these big super late model events where it's kind of like an all-star race, really. I mean, these big names come in, not for points, just for bragging rights and money, obviously. Um, I really enjoy how that stuff works, but it does kind of lead to some chaos too.
Yeah, especially when you got guys like I heard Kyle Busch took his Xfinity or Cup pit crew down there one year to pit him
Oh
and
yeah, that caused
ruined the
quite a
whole
bit of
thing.
controversy. Yeah. And already in the chat, Chris Wolfson says, "Snowball Derby? Who cares? He's running the Rolex 24." And
Amen.
that is a good point. You know, him and Jimmy Johnson probably will be running the Rolex 24 this year. Um, don't know which cars they'll be driving, if they'll be in the same car or different. I would think different cars, but we shall see. I always liked when drivers from different disciplines tried the Rolex 24. Um, like IndyCar drivers, they're almost always in the Rolex, but NASCAR drivers is a little bit more hit and miss. Some years you have multiple, some years only have like one. I think Kyle Busch was like the only NASCAR driver in the Rolex 24 last year, and a phenomenal
Yep.
job he really did. That being way out of his element. It's really interesting to see these guys go into different types of racing and see how they perform in different challenges like that.
Yeah, it'd be cool if Jimmy and Chase are in the same car. I kind of doubt they will be just from the logistics of it, but we'll see. We'll also have to see what kind of car they're in. It'd be cool if they're in the Corvette, but they'll probably be in the Cadillac.
Oh yeah, I definitely
We'll see.
expect at least Johnson to be in a DPI with Ganassi, since that's who his IndyCar team is.
Oh, probably. He'll probably have two cars, so Chase in one and Jimmy in the other, but we'll see.
Yeah, I would not be surprised. It seems like the GT field, like GTE especially, it seems like they are less and less putting like you know kind of all-star drivers in their cars. They seem to have a set endurance guy. Although some of the lineups have changed over the last year or so, but I mean, really, the only one I can think of as kind of an all-star driver was when they put Alex Zanardi in the BMW, and then they put Colton Herta in a BMW. But the Porsche and the Corvette teams over the past few years have been they got an endurance guy.
Yep.
Anyways, we'll move on to some more real life news. Another this last week it was Alan Cavana with Fox, and now this week it's Matt Yoakum splitting from Fox, and he has not announced his plans yet for 2021. I'm sure he'll be doing something, but kind of a shame. He's like the last original reporter from the Fox crew back, when we were kids, uh, when they started in like 2001 or whatever. Um, and now he's out of there, so that's kind of a shame.
Yeah, and to be honest, to Fox's credit, we don't know if they let him go like they did to Alan Cavana, and also against Alan Cavana, he could have put that out on Twitter or Facebook months ago when it happened after the Kansas race, or I guess I don't know when the Kansas race was, but if it's the Kansas race we're thinking about is a while ago, but it could also be the truck race if they went to Kansas when the Cup Series did, but it did seem pretty delayed by at least a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's really interesting with Alan Cavana leaving Fox. Jamie Little's not leaving Fox. She's actually kind of upgrading her role as lead commentary for the ARCA series next year, which will be interesting. I wonder if she's only going to cover the races that are on FS1, because the rest were on Mav TV last year. So I wonder if they're going to have Mav TV people covering that. But then yeah, Matt Yoakum now splitting from them too. So they, I don't know. I feel like Fox is kind of running thin on reporters.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it. We'll have to see what they do or who they add to their roster for next year.
Matt is in the chat. Says sup guys. What's up, Matt? Good morning.
Howdy, Matt. Woo podcast.
Yep, woo podcast.
The next one, and this really hits close to home. No truck race at Eldora in 2021. Um, Pretty disappointing because I'm pretty sure half the people in the chat, as well the two of us, bought tickets to go see that race in real life. They tell you not to meet people that you know from the internet, but we were going to do it anyways, and we won't get that opportunity at Eldora.
Yeah, that really sucked. And I guess like I could have made a plan at a different track where it could have gotten canceled, but this one's like double hurts because not only is this year's canceled, but for the foreseeable future, it's canceled. 2019 we went to Michigan International Speedway and had a great time, and if we would have tried to go to Michigan again, at least there would still be a Michigan race. Not with the trucks though; they did eliminate the trucks from Michigan next year, but there would still be something to go to at MIS. And now Eldora didn't just cancel for this year and the next year; it just completely gone for now. Which it got replaced by Knoxville, but still, that's a completely different area of the country, and I'm probably not going to go to that race. So it's quite a shame. Kind of really wounded my summer plans for last year, and now if I am going to have a summer this next coming year, it's not probably not going to include Eldora.
Yeah, it's a real shame because like we could swing the drive to Ohio from where we live. I would assume it'd be 6 hours, worst case scenario, one way for you. But for me, it's probably like 3 to 4 at most, maybe. I'm not sure. But now that I mean Knoxville or Bristol to see trucks race on dirt, I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to give it a chance, as I
No,
do
I'm
with
not
like
saying
everything.
I'll
But
hate it. I'm just saying like now it's a lot longer of a drive to go see him race on dirt. Plus, any other track that got canceled this year, they've most of them have been saying like keep your ticket. We'll we'll give you a ticket for next year if you present us, the 2020 ticket. You can get it in 2021. But for Eldora, you're kind of screwed.
any other real life news you want to talk about, or we could always also have this be a kind of an open segment.
No new news for me.
New
I think
news.
we can go to the iRacing stuff if you would like. Yeah.
Yeah, another interesting race in Skidder Creek Racing League. I heard.
Yep, we went to green, and about the third or fifth turn, Somebody spun out, and we were at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve and up in Montreal, Canada, and somebody just got a little bit loose on the grass, dipped them right sides in the grass, I heard, and spun out and blocked the entire track. I mean, it was a parking lot when I got to it, and luckily everyone else behind me got stopped. I think I hit one car, um, and then the rest of us got going, but half the field was just wrecked in a single incident.
Is that kind of the you hate to see it moment of the week?
You know what? It just might be the you hate to see it moment because it took out a ton of fast guys, Matt included. He's running for the championship in there, and just to see him get taken out like that really sucks. But at least he was there, so he'll get the participation points. It's not as bad as if he just missed the race, because then he's losing probably like 47 points to us at worst. But now it's like 10 or something, if not even.
Was it at least a spectacular looking wreck? Because that's what matters.
I wasn't there to see it live, and I never went back to look at it.
Did you not see it? Oh. Did you not see it because you hate to see it?
No, I mean, I would have hated to see it if I saw it in real life, but I didn't qualify well enough. Let's put it that way.
So you only hate to see things if you've already seen them. Is that correct?
No, 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 because some things you can see them live, or when they first happen, you're like, ah, geez, you hate to see it, but it just depends.
Anyways, Bootleg Racing League update. Now, I didn't run on Friday night dirt this week, so you can let me know how that went too. I was playing a little bit of hooky, doing another special event race that we'll get to in a moment.
Yep. So dirt actually went pretty all right. Pretty smooth races. Um, that I can remember. It went okay. I forget who won all the races, but it's a pretty good time.
Matt in the chat says, "How do you know if you hate to see it if you haven't seen it yet?"
Oh
Or did,
man, I only hate to see it because it took out you and Chris. That's why I hated to see it.
so you didn't have to see it to hate to see it.
Yeah, really.
We are getting philosophical here on the Armchair Racers podcast. Love it.
So that's Friday. We'll move on to Saturday. Street stocks. Um, Pretty uneventful. Had some cautions,
Yeah, it
some
was
wreck.
like what, just a couple cautions.
Yeah, I don't think we had that many in the street stocks. I'll try pull up
It was
all
only
the
like
scripts.
two, I thought, wasn't it? But good race for me. I was up in. I started in the top eight. The back half of the top eight, I was like sixth, I think, and I ended up I ended up finishing second, right behind J.R. Shepard. Man, I was just all over his back bumper, and I just could not get the run that I needed out of the corners. I would go up to kind of diamond the corner. We were at Martinsville this week, by the way, in the Bootleg Racing League on Saturday night, and I just could not get that run. I would go up the track to try to straight line the exit and get a good launch off through the exit, and I would just get tight getting off, and just couldn't build that run. And there was no way I was getting underneath Jr. I tried a few times, and that didn't seem to work either. So I kind of just ended up following him to the finish, and but solid run nonetheless. Then we went to the SK Modifieds, and that one I started up front. I started second because I finished seventh last week, and via the invert put me to second with Todd Liston on the front row with me. Fell back a little bit at the beginning, kind of got freight trained on the high side, fell back to about fifth or sixth. Um, then came back and ended up P2 again, behind JR again, and another really close battle again because man, we were just so even. It was just that car was kind of the opposite of the street stock, where the street stock was really tight on exit, or pushy loose, and the SK was just really loose coming off when you get on the throttle, so it's hard to get the power down.
It was pretty loose the entire corner. If you were driving it right or fast enough, you were kind of just skirting the whole way through the corner. So if you didn't get back to the power the right way or soft enough, you just loop it around and hit the pit wall. So it is what it is on that front.
Yep, and then moving on to the big race of the night was the Grand National Series in the ARCA cars, 100 laps, again at Martinsville. And this race I started, let's see, kind of like middle of the invert, I believe. Where did you start in that race, Austin?
I started eighth because I finished ninth last week.
That's right.
Kenny, you started fifth.
Yep, I'm pulling it up right now. And that race was kind of a caution fest, 7 cautions. We kind of went a while, or went well. We had a big wreck on lap coming on to lap 2. That was huge actually because the two other drivers in the points championship with me are the 99 of James Lowe and the 9 of Justin Morton. And Todd Liston was up near the front there with Justin side by side. And I don't know if they net coded or if Todd kind of moved up the track or something, but they touched, got all sideways, and I went low, and I just missed getting wrecked out of that. And but James was not as lucky. Justin was not very lucky. They were involved in it. Jr. got through it. Justin mostly got through it. He stayed out and ended up keeping most of his track position. But James had a bad night last night and got involved in that wreck. Got involved in a few wrecks later on. He wasn't really a factor. He ended up finishing 11th. Justin stayed out there. He ended up right behind me for a while. Brian Dean started on pole, and he kind of let us by when I got right
He
behind
led
him.
like 40 something laps though.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Well, he
Yeah,
led
he led 25 laps.
25
Yep.
laps. Yep. So he led us through, and then I was next in line, so I took the lead, and then right at the same time that I took the lead, Jr. made a nice move on Justin Morton, took over third, which later took gave him second because Brian let us all by. And then it was basically it was on between me and Jr. the rest of the race, just a battle, and we led 75 laps and came all the way down to the end, and we held him off. It was really cool because we had 3 battles in every race. We had a battle every race, and he won twice and I won once. But it was a really big moment for me.
Yeah, it was pretty cool seeing you up there the whole race. It looked like JR was gonna put his nose in there a couple times, and he did, but he played fairly about it and didn't dive bomb you or go in there and spin you out. So that was cool to see.
Nope, we race cleanly every single week. We race hard, really hard, but we race clean every week. And we usually don't hit each other, but man, we get damn close to each other. Um,
Yep. The only person you guys don't race clean against is James Lowe.
oh, jeez.
That guy, you punt him out of the way.
It's kind of like the Dale Earnhardt talking about Jeff Gordon. He's like, always, race with courtesy, unless it's Jeff Gordon. Then you
Yeah,
put some
pull
bitch in
out
the
so
wall.
your fellow racer can see you. Unless it's Jeff Gordon, then put the sumbitch in the
Yeah.
wall.
But I actually I felt really bad for James this race because he had a few off races last night.
Yeah, I feel like he was just bitten by bad luck, and usually he's pretty good here. I don't know if he's necessarily the best here. Like he has some tracks where he's the guy to beat, if not J.R. Shepard. He's certainly second in line. But I just don't think Martinsville is one of his best tracks.
So a quick update on NEP. Oh, well, we'll get to the rant section later. There's a little rant we want to go over later on about BRL. Well, not in the league, but about something that happened in the race or after the race, kind of. So we'll get to that one later. A little bit of foreshadowing. Um, Update on NEP, the Shift Marketing and Design Series. We went to Thompson Motor Speedway, which is arguably the toughest oval track on the iRacing service. One lane, top groove only, really bumpy and tough. Um, I ended up finishing P5. I had some issues and had to come back through the field, but I took tires and really was making them work. Strategy was kind of all over the place because you got the one set of tires you can take, and there's people wrecking and stuff. But shout out to Matt in the chat. He ended up P3 in that race, best finish of the season for him. And but of course, ended up being the only broadcast so far that was not a live broadcast, so he didn't get his top 3 interview, which is a shame.
Can I talk about my bootleg racing league races?
Ah, yes, of course you can. Sorry
Oh,
about that.
no, no, it's all right. It's all right. You run the roll. I didn't want to interrupt. I'd rather in the moment not do anything and then complain about it like the typical armchair pod racer we are. So, not
Pod
pod racer,
racers, yes.
podcast
No, we're
racer.
we're pod racers now. We're taking it straight to Star
Oh,
Wars.
now this is pod racing.
Yeah.
Street stocks started in the back. I was gonna line up 15th, and then I went down pit road to fix something, and because you know it's gonna be a wreck fest. I come out. Apparently nowadays, if you go down pit road before the race, you get an entering closed pits, and you will get a 40-second stop and hold penalty. Pretty dog shit.
Wow,
Um,
thanks for
yeah.
doing that research for us.
So no problem. It's science.
Yeah.
So I come out, I'm 2 laps down. I get the lucky dog once or twice, however many times I did. Come out. I was like lap 30 at this point. I got my laps back, and then tried racing up to the field. I got to 11th. That's pretty much it. For the SKs, I started I think 9th or 10th.
I would like to know in the street stocks you did have 0 incidents. Good for you.
I did, yes. I don't like to hit people. Usually I'm just busting down the fence, and I might get a 1 or 2X.
You just pray to God that the next time that you scrape the wall is just a 0x again.
Oh yeah, every time, dude, every time. Then in the SKs, I have a real bad problem about hitting the wall and trying to climb it. That's a bad problem I have. Because I hit the wall once trying to avoid James. I got target fixated on him, and I was like, "Ooh, I better steer away from where James is," because the man was going backwards on the front stretch, ladies and gentlemen. He did not have a good night. Um, and I tried to climb the wall. And then the next caution, apparently we were 3 wide, but I never got the call. And we were only 2 wide looking back at it. And I believe Jason Menda, like net coated, his car net coated about like 3 car widths up and smacked me into the fence. So my toe was all out of whack. My car was junked.
Yeah,
and
you had 12 incidents in that race for good
I
reason.
hit a lot of cars, Kenny. I hit a lot of cars.
A lot of
And
trauma.
the wall.
A lot of blunt force trauma there.
Oh yeah, if it were real life, I'd be concussed for sure. Um, and if that were the case, I'd probably just sleep it off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you'll be
Um,
back next week.
yeah, never.
Ah, that's what we got
Um,
the holidays for, to heal up my injuries.
yep. Yeah, my brain hurts. Uh, then I spun myself out. I was just pushing too hard because the car was too shitty to try and keep up lap times. Spun out, came back out. Once I got my fast repair, I was running pretty fast laps with you and JR coming up to lap me there, put me 4 laps down. And then in the Grand National race, I started 8th outside JR, kind of wrestled my way down to the inside line. Then we had a pretty long green flag run for the first like 20, 25 laps. And then somebody spun out, brought out the caution. We lined back up. And then James, he couldn't shift into third or into fourth or something. He stacked up the bottom line. Of course, I was on the outside again. Every restart we have, I'm on the outside. I got past both of them up into fifth. And then after that, I got, how you say, ass packed and I lost my front bumper. I had no front fascia, folks. It's looked pretty wicked.
Oh yeah.
And then I got ass packed again, and that's the race. I finished 8th though, just barely. So
Yeah,
I'll
I
be on
see
the
that
pole next time.
you finished 8th. You'll be on pole for New Smyrna. How do you feel about that track next week or 2 weeks from now?
You know, I don't remember what all the tracks are. A couple of them stand out, like the Bull Ring and Myrtle Beach, in South Boston, of course. Um, Other than that, I don't remember anything about any of the tracks, and I just kind of show up and bool. I don't really practice, so living in the moment.
So I don't know if you remember last night, but I said something over chat. I said, because they were keeping stats of, like Donnie was saying some stats about JR. They were like, oh
Ah,
yeah,
yes,
this is
it was
his
his
80th win or something like
80th
that.
win. Yep, in his 193rd start or something, maybe 189th.
Something like that. And then I said, oh, I wish I kept track of how many times I've finished second to JR in the SKs. And I was actually thinking of like in all the series. I actually got a private message, like early this morning or last night or something, from Donnie saying, "So I was curious. You have finished second behind JR 6 times in the SKs. I have finished second behind or to JR 24 times in the SKs."
Wow,
So
that's incredible.
yeah, I mean, oh, so many times we've been so close and just can't get it done because of
Yeah, I
JR.
really like Donnie. He's our basically our unofficial statistician for those.
Yeah, I know Matt's done some stats for BRL in the past, and uh, Donnie's kind of the I how do you put it, like the journeyman, I guess, of BRL at this point. He's kind of been there the longest. I don't know that for a fact, but pretty confident of that.
Probably aside from Lowell and JR, I guess he's been there the whole time because I know talking to JR, he'll tell you like the person who was JR Shepherd before JR Shepherd was JR Shepherd and the Bootleg Racing League was Donnie. So
Yeah, I think Donnie's been there a long time, so that was cool of him to send me that little snippet. Um, we okay to move on to the TCM 300?
oh, of course.
So the TCM 300, that is a special event, um, super late model event, 300 laps at Southern National. Um, there was a 3 night qualifying, technically 4 night. There was qualifying nights on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so many people would advance each night. You were dedicated to one night, and then people who didn't make it, you'd be thrown into the last chance night on Thursday, and then the big race was on Friday. Um, the heat races in your qualifying night were all by random draw, so naturally I drew last. That's how that works. And moved up to just one spot out of my transfer spot, and I ended up spinning the guy that was in the transfer spot with like 2 to go, and so they EOL'd me, so I had to go to the back, so I had to go to my last chance race. Went to my last chance race, finished like fourth, so I got to my main qualifying race. And I got through there, through hell and high water, finished fourth in that, so I got to the main event. Me and this was a race that we did with the NEP guys. There was like 11 of us that tried to get in, and only me and 3 other people got into it. And the rest of I mean, there was us and then like 2 other people that were not Canadians, so we were definitely the minority out of there. And I didn't realize that. Well, Vidane TV covered it, and I think they're Canadian, so I guess it kind of makes sense. But so that's why I didn't recognize like hardly any of the people in there, which was a little bit intimidating. But we went in there, and man, we got spun on lap 2. We started in the main event in like ninth place. Got spun on lap 2, and then to go to the back. It's 300 lap or 2, so you have to pit for fuel. So later on, I pitted for fuel, but I took too much fuel, and it ended up putting me a lap down. Got the lap back the next caution. Then we're trying to make our way through the field. We ended up pitting twice for right side tires, stayed on the lead lap, and got spun another time in there. Went pitted for fuel one more time in there, and ended up kind of lucking ourselves up to fourth place in the money. And John Peters, who wins just about every NEP race, ended up winning. So it was pretty cool to have 2 NEP drivers, 2 American drivers in the top 5 for that. So I think the last point we'll get to before we bring in our guest is the iRacing Speed 51 Snowball Derby, which actually qualifying night for that is tonight, which I'll be broadcasting live here on Twitch at like 6 p.m. I think it starts Eastern. Over 80 drivers registered. Um, Former IndyCar driver R.C. Anderson's one of them. A lot of really fast iRacers though. Some borderline pro drivers. That's going to be tough. We got third place in that race last year. Kind of, we're just really lucky, but we'll probably have to race our way in. Top 20 drivers get in on qualifying time. Don't think that'll be us. I think we're going to have to race our way in. So hope that we can do that tonight, and then next Sunday will be the main race. Got anything else to add, Austin?
No, I'll be watching with the people in your chat, hoping you make it to the real thing and win it.
All right. All right, we're going to see if our guest is available. Justin, you got a copy?
Roger, Roger.
Sweet. I might go and turn your volume up real quick. So, Justin is our first ever guest on the Armchair Racers podcast. How does that make you feel?
Very privileged, I gotta say.
So, in case anybody doesn't know, Justin is my roommate. He's actually in the room right next to me right now. So,
Yeah, I'm only separated by a single wall. He's right on the other side.
and basically, I my headset doesn't cancel out enough noise, so I can basically hear everything Justin says as he says it. So, we'll try to get through this
Not
best
gonna
we can.
lie, pretty hot.
So, Justin being my roommate, I moved into this house. Let's see, it'd be January, about mid-January last year. So we're approaching a year of being a homeowner, and um, Justin's been the roommate the entire time, and we kind of grew up together. We've known each other about all our lives. We grew up on the same street together. So, how's the roommate life been for you, Justin?
It's going well. One of my old coworkers said, "Oh, don't ever, roommate with your best friends. You'll ruin your friendship. Oh, don't do it." And I was like, "Nah, I mean, me and Kenny get along, well enough. We're always doing the same stupid stuff. I don't think like a little quarrel or anything like that is gonna ruin a friendship."
Yeah, we tend to, if we are gonna argue, we tend to get over it pretty quick because 99% of arguments don't really mean shit. So
Yeah.
it's pretty easy to get over.
Yeah, we're both men. We don't like sulk about it or anything like that. Like, all right, whatever, and just go on with our life.
Fine.
Yep. Yeah. Fine. We'll even say that with that tone, even if we're like, even if it's like a yes, like we're in total agreement. We'll just walk around the house and we'll be like, "Hey, yeah, I'm gonna order pizza for dinner," and you're just like, "Fine."
To be honest, though, I think we do that because we're stupid. But
Oh yes, this is completely for comedic value and for pure stupidity.
yep,
I've heard this saying, men have two speeds, stupidity and perversion, and that's it. Which is probably true. So since we've known
well,
each other for so long, we were wondering. I think Austin was kind of curious of this. If you had
oh
any
yes,
school memories, Justin. I doesn't even really have to necessarily be involving both of us, but bonus points if it does. Um, I can think of one thing in particular. It wasn't really school, but it was while we were still in school. But I was wondering if you had any stories about that.
Um, I have a couple. Um, the first one that popped in my head that we were both involved with was once I was in sophomore year, I think. I started getting rides from you to and from school, and good old Chip. And one of those days when we were heading back from school, we were just driving down one of the roads and the hubcap just falls off, and we I kind of glance over and I see it rolling and just dives into the snow because it was at the winter at that time, and I was like, Kenny, I think your hubcap just fell, and we had to scavenge around into the snow just to find it.
Oh yeah, it was like knee deep snow because it was like off the road where nobody really shoveled or anything. That
Yeah,
was
that's where
cool.
like all the plow moves the snow into.
For the probably two listeners we have, what kind of car was Chip?
So Chip was my very first car, and really I can go in so many stories with that. Might have to save some of those stories for next week. But Chip was my first car, and I called him Chip because he was a 1982 Buick Skylark. And if anybody watched the Fairly Odd Parents show, cartoon show, they would know that Chip Skylark was one of the characters. So when I was a kid, my dad bought this car in 2000. So we'd had it in the family since I was 4 years old. So we called him Chip Skylark. My dad, for some reason, wanted to call him the Sky Chicken. No idea why, but um, so that car meant the world to me, and still does. It doesn't exist anymore, but um, that car took me to my first day of preschool and my last day of high school, which I thought was so cool. And we'll dive into more of the stories next year, or next week. But um, my senior year, well, junior into senior year, I was started to give Justin rides to school every day, and that was the car we drove for 2 years. Chip Skylark. Probably wasn't even roadworthy really, but that car would never die, so he kept running her.
Just running on the little Iron Duke and just putting around.
Yep. That car was. I kept telling my dad about 6 months from when I was done driving that car. I was like, man, this. I am limping this thing because it is literally dangerous. I'd feel like something's gonna like fly off like a wheel, or the suspension just felt so brittle and rusty. And he, of course, right after we retired the car, he hopped in it and had to like just drive down the road for something, like down to a neighbor's house. He's like, "Oh my God, you're right. This thing is like dangerous."
Terrible.
But uh, might as well still put your 16-year-old son in there. But who cares, right? But man, I love that car. Wouldn't have traded those 2 years for anything. Um, the one school memory I have, it's not really a school memory. It's just a funny little. It's just a tidbit. It's not even really a story. We've always had these few like moments that have stuck in our brains as to being like just really funny at the time, and they might not even really be funny now, but we can always look back on them and they're really funny. And of course, Justin used to spend the night every once in a while and that kind of thing. And so Justin was over one night, and my parents made spaghetti for dinner. My parents made spaghetti for dinner, and I ate, my parents all ate, but Justin didn't eat. He wasn't hungry at the time. So my dad left the noodles to sit out just in the air, long after we were done eating. And Justin's like, I'll eat later, I'll eat later. So it comes to be like, I don't know, around midnight. And Justin decides he wants to eat spaghetti. Well, when noodles like that sit, they stick to each other, especially when it's for like 5 hours. So Justin takes the like utensil to scoop out some noodles, and he literally just grabs like a whole glob of all the noodles at once, and then just like plops them all into his bowl.
It was a solid form that was like formed in the shape of the pot. You lift it up and you can still see the curve of where the bottom of the pot was. It just came out in one solid chunk of noodle.
And I was kind of like, I told you so, but it was like, well, he still ate them. I was like, okay, it's fine by
Every
me.
single noodle?
Oh yeah, everything that was left just come out as one group because they all
Like a
stuck
puck?
together.
Jeez. Did you ever think at the time, like, maybe I could, like, cut a section out of this, like a little pizza pie slice?
No, I fully committed. As soon as I grabbed it and I pulled up and it all came out one piece, I'm like, well, I guess this is what I'm eating.
You
Yep.
know what? Respect, mad respect for that.
Really, probably would have been better to just eat them right out of the pot.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
think at that point I just doused it with like the sauce, and then I just I was literally just using the fork and cutting just chunks off. It wasn't even coming out as noodles. It was just a glob of noodles stuck together with a little bit of sauce and just eating that.
did you end up nuking it in the microwave for a while too?
I think for a little bit, yeah, but that didn't do a whole lot.
But that's the one thing that sticks out. I'm sure there's some other great stories too. But uh, some great stories, really funny stories, came from last summer. I made a pledge last year that I was going to start going to a different racetrack that I'd never been to or hadn't been to in a long time, at least one per year. And Michigan International Speedway was the easy choice because it's closest to the big tracks. So,
Kenny's lazy. Just
yep,
put it
I'm
out.
lazy. Yep. Well, I'm heading this vacation up, and this is the first time that I really had full control over a vacation. So I bought tickets and everything. It was me, Justin, Brody, who is another one of lifelong friend of ours, both of ours, and Caleb, who I've been friends with Caleb for probably 15 years, so not quite as long, but I'm 20, almost 25 now. So um, we all got together. We hopped into Justin's Subaru, and we were jamming out to music as we went over to Brooklyn, Michigan, and of course, before we went to the track, we went to the track first for the truck race, and then we checked into our hotel. And back when we went and reserved our hotel, I was looking at hotels, and I had kind of made the mistake of not. I thought 6 months or so was like early enough, or a few months was early enough to reserve a hotel, but apparently not in that area, as all the decent hotels were taken. So you either had to really overpay for something, or you get a shit garbage hotel. So naturally, with us being relatively cheap, we're like, just get a cheap hotel. I'm like, all right. So we got, what was that brand? Was that Motel
I think it was a
8
Super 8.
or a Super 8? Yeah. So we got a Super 8 for like 60 some bucks per night per room. And we got two double rooms, so it was like 30 bucks a person. It was super cheap. And we only had to stay one night. Um, but when we ended up getting to the hotel, we found out why it was such a cheap hotel for multiple reasons. Um, First being, so Brody and I were in one room, and then Justin and Caleb were in another room. And so Brody and I go to our room, and the first thing that I notice, or one of us notices, is that the walls they have outlets, and there's literally crayon to point to what outlet does what. So one of them says like clock, and one of them says light, and it's literally crayoned onto the wall.
Yeah.
And
And sorry to interrupt, but like before we even get to our rooms, Kenny is talking to the lady up front, like, yeah, can we get two rooms that are right next to each other? And she was giving him a little bit of sass, and she said, okay, sure. And then she gave us two rooms, and it was like the numbers were like 427, and the other one was like 431. And we're kind of looking at these numbers like those don't seem they're right next to each other. Sure enough, when we get up there, they are like 4 or 5 rooms apart. And we're like, okay, well, I guess we're just gonna have to, you know, run across the hallway, cause mayhem. Even though it was fairly quiet in there, with our group, we're not so quiet, especially Brody. He's
yeah,
not the quiet person.
there was hardly anybody in there. And the rooms actually they were remember they were 203 and 208 because remember when she said she would say we kind of made that as a joke because she told us the in an accent she
Yeah,
was like, yes, it's
Indy?
203 and 208. And so we go up to the rooms, and um, we're finding like light fixtures that don't have light bulbs in them, like, and the the windows are like nasty, and the my bed like was not like if I leaned to one side of the bed, the whole bed would tip over. Like it wasn't like attached to the frame or so. I don't know what
Yeah,
the problem
one
was.
of the legs are like way shorter than the other, so when you get to one spot, the whole thing would just tip.
Yeah, so I had to make sure I slept on one side of the bed all night. And so then we kind of settle our stuff down, and then so we head over to Justin and Caleb's room, where they had kind of a mishap happen.
Yeah. So this was like closer at nighttime, and we Caleb just crashed early. He went to bed and just passed out. I didn't even notice. I was like, okay, whatever. So for a little bit, I was just on my phone, just fucking around on it, and then I kind of see out the corner of my eye that something starts to move, and I look to the right of me, and looking where Caleb was in the bed, and I see this painting, which is what I assumed was on the wall. It was this really large painting, about almost the size of the bed, and it's on the wall, and I see it start coming off the wall and starts tipping, coming down, and it just slams right on top of Caleb as he's sleeping. And I'm like, what the hell? And I I I'm looking over, and I'm kind of giggling at this point, and I can't see Caleb because now he's underneath the painting, but I just hear him go, oh, what the fuck happened? And and I was like, dude, the painting just fell off, and he got up, we put the painting back up, and we looked. It's not even on the wall. It's sitting on the like headboard of the bed. It's just balancing up there. So if you were to move at all during your sleep, the painting would just come down and hit you. This is like, man. And another thing is that in my room, I had a mini fridge, but in their room, they didn't. But in their room, they had a microwave, but in my room, I didn't.
These were equal rooms, by the way. I paid the
Yeah,
same price
equal
for both
paid
of them.
rooms.
And like
Which one's better? Would you rather have the microwave or the mini fridge, though?
The mini
mini
fridge.
fridge, because we
Okay.
didn't eat there. We weren't going to take our chances. So we uh so we put our drinks in their fridge, which was all like rusty looking and stuff, but at least it
Oh yeah, like
worked.
all the paint was just chipping on the inside. Like,
Yeah,
this
probably
does not look like a good fridge.
probably lead-based paint. And I don't know what you guys did in your room, but when Brody and I went to sleep in our room, of course it's in the middle of the summertime, but we're like, man, we're we're paying for this room. We literally would take the AC and crank it as low a temperature as it would go, so it's like negative something, and just so full blast all night, get under the covers. And if that bitch was gonna shut down, we would reset the temperature and make it turn on again. We were running that thing all night long.
Yeah, we had ours at the coolest temperature, but it was only like to 36. You guys had it way, way lower. I was like, why do you get the privilege of making it way lower, but mine's restricted?
Yeah, you could literally like almost see your breath. Like we,
Got a governor on yours.
Yeah, really.
I mean, they tried to put a governor on ours just to have like that automatic shut off, but we're like, nope, we're turning you right back on. I'm paying for this. We're gonna waste your electricity. So yeah, the rest of the time there was, oh, so kind of backing up here, which is kind of ironic. Uh, when we first checked in, so Brody and I's room has a window that is looking out in the parking lot toward. It looks right at Justin's car. In Justin's car, the rear end is facing us, and the parking lot is relatively narrow, um, but it's got like parking spots on either side of it. Um, so we're looking out, and Justin actually is in our room. We're just kind of chatting. It's the middle of the day, and all of a sudden Justin kind of like reacts to something and just kind of bolts out of our room, and I have no idea really why. Um, and Justin, you can talk about what it was like from your perspective.
Yeah, so like Kenny was saying, we were just hanging out in his room and just talking, and like I was just looking out the window, just kind of like watching cars go past by and whatnot, and I'm looking down into the parking lot, and like straight across from where my car is parked, there is a like Dodge minivan, and I'm watching this guy back up, and like there's no cars next to him, but there's mine straight behind him, and he backs up, and he doesn't start cutting. He doesn't turn. He goes straight back, and I'm kind of watching him like, don't you do it, don't you do it, and he keeps going back and hits the rear of my car, and I see my whole car lurch forward from the hit. And at that point, I'm like, you son of a bitch. And I sprint like the fastest I've ever moved. And I'm like, at that time, I was fairly chunky. I'm still fairly chunky now. That was the fastest I've ever moved. It's just gone. I fling open the door. I sprint down the hallway. I basically jump down the stairs, like not even going one step at a time. Just jump down, and I zoom out through the main room where people are checking in. And there's like a couple people there, and I'm just like storming out. And there's a guy that kind of looked at me. Or, I'm just my face is pissed, and he's like, "Oh shit!" Kind of moves out the way. I fling open the door, and the guy's like out now, and he's like looking at my car, and I just throw my hands out. I'm like, "What the hell, man?" And he's like, "Oh, is this your car?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's my car." And I was
That's
like,
my whip, dog.
yeah, I was like, "What the heck, dude?" He's like, "Oh, sorry, man." He's like, "Yeah, well, well, I don't live around here." He's like, "I live in Illinois. Me and my family are renting out this minivan, and I got so used to using the backup camera on mine, I didn't pay attention. I didn't, see your car was back there. I was expecting the beeping from the backup camera." I was like, "Dude, use your mirrors. That's what they've been for, fucking decades before the fucking backup camera came out." And it was like, "Oh, I'm really sorry." I'm looking at my damage, and thankfully, it's just a plastic bumper. He didn't like buckle it in or anything. It just made a light wave indentation into it. And it probably like popped in, then popped back out. I was like, "Well, dude, I'm gonna need your information, And he starts. He's like, "Do you have a pen, paper?" I'm like, "No." So he goes inside, and he gets like one of these brochures uh from the hotel, and he's writing down his information on the side of it and all that. He's like, "Oh, I'm really sorry about this, really sorry." And I'm just like, "Whatever, dude." And I'm like, not even looking at him. I'm just kind of looking at my car, and I was just like, "Man, god dang it!" And like, yeah, yeah, it was this at that, that was a bad time for me.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been worse,
Oh,
but
much worse.
well, yeah, like from my perspective, Justin just leaves like really quickly, and I then see him and the guy down there, so I run down there just in case things get ugly. I mean, I'm not gonna provide much physical support, but at least I'm another person.
Hmm.
So,
Kenny's
um,
there to kick the guy while he's down. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. So I go down there and I'm just kind of standing there watching the conversation, and the guy was nice, but he was just an idiot. I, I mean, pay attention,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But
Later on, apparently Brody was telling me before we went out, before I got out there, the window was open and Brody was at the window and he took a couple pictures, and he said he could hear the wife in the passenger seat to say, "No, let's just go, let's get out of here." And the guy got out and had a look at what happened. So thankfully he did the right thing and didn't listen to his wife and just bolted out. And I would have been really pissed at that point.
Man, what a
yeah,
dumb bitch.
yeah, oh yeah, definitely. So, uh, the funny thing is too, like so Justin and I were down there in the parking lot talking, and Brody stayed up in our room, and he's sitting up in our room taking snapshots and giving them stupid captions.
Yeah, like
Like,
little like voice bubbles over
yeah.
them.
So he's creating his own little conversation with pictures by taking pictures of us and putting like speech bubbles to them with text. So he did one that was like he gave one speech to Justin saying, "Well, you backed up," and then I can't remember another one he did, but it, it was just stupid. Cause
Yeah, another one was he was like another one was like I can't remember the exact thing, but it was like me saying, well, yeah, of course, bud, or something like that.
you know, and he said something like, "Oh, I guess I'm a dick or something." It's like
Yeah, I was like,
just
oh, I'm a
stupid.
dick. Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, just stupid stuff. So it's happy that he was there to support us.
And I noticed when I was talking to him too, he had I don't remember the exact driver, but he had a NASCAR shirt on, so he was at that hotel for the same reason that we were for the race.
You guys look for him the next day.
Oh, I was looking out. I was like, where is that bastard? Where is he? But I
Go up
didn't
to
see
him,
him.
cuss him out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was the cup race and then the truck race one day after the other. I think he was only for the cup, didn't stay for the truck.
Yeah. So that was a fun time though overall. Oh, and we came up with our own kind of like soundtrack. So we were taking turns. I was the kind of the DJ, but I would search up any particular song that anybody wanted to listen to, and we came up with this for some reason. Every road trip we have a certain song that you have to play once on the way to wherever you're going, and you have to play. And then if we have like multiple days that we're there, on race day you have to play. There's another song you have to play, and on the way home there's another song you have to play. So when we were on our way to MIS the first time, we had to play Whiplash by Metallica.
And the other one was Country Roads by John Denver.
Yep. And then
Classics.
the one where on race day where we went to the cup race, we were leaving our hotel back to the cup race. We had to play Bawadaba by Kid Rock.
Yeah, we would just, as we were rolling into the parking spots of the racetrack, we're just blasting Kid Rock.
Kid Rock. So, and then on the way home, our soundtrack was X Gonna Give It To You. No reason in particular why we picked any of these songs, but they all have stuck and they're going to be enshrined as our soundtrack forever.
And we one of the songs we listened to at the time was one of the Kid or Limp Bizkit songs. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but he goes wah, and so we just would do that just at random times throughout the whole trip. We would just be, hey, look at that, wah! Just as the cars go past us, wah, 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 wah. It was super stupid.
Yeah, we're a bunch of idiots.
Yeah.
But fun times. Um, but now we can't go on vacations. That's illegal anymore. So we've been just chilling at
Regret.
home. And us, I can bring you into this conversation too. We can all talk about this. What video games you guys been playing? Justin, we'll start with you.
I've been mainly playing the new Yakuza Like a Dragon game.
That's a series I never played, and I really didn't even know existed until we started living together. I was just kind of watching you play one of the older ones, but
Mhm.
very wacky game. But it's like its own kind of niche kind of game.
Yes, it's very interesting. It's made by Sega, and it's this super serious like drama to it with the main story. And you're Yakuza, and it's like all like gangster stuff, very serious, dangerous stuff going on. But then once you get to like the side quests and all that, they're super weird and just out there. It's Like some stuff is like, oh, you go to a bowling alley and there's a chicken there named Nugget or something, and you have to get like a certain score, and then you eventually have to like bowl against Nugget or something like that. It's really weird stuff, but it's a primarily like dialogue heavy game. There are some points where you're just in dialogue, the characters are just speaking for like 30 minutes straight, and then there's no like action whatsoever, but it's still intriguing based on their conversations that they're doing.
Now, did you originally get into that game more so because it was like an anime kind of game? Because I know you're interested in anime, or was it more because it was like, a combat-y kind of fighting game, or is it more because of or did you know from the get-go how wacky it was and that interesting?
I've seen videos on YouTube and whatnot of like clips of the Yakuza series, and I was like, okay, this they seem like some stuff is just like way out there, just weird stuff. And Yakuza originally came out only on PlayStation stuff. So once like the Yakuza 0, 1, and 2 or whatever came out on Xbox Game Pass, I was like, oh, cool, I'll play this, see what happens. And it has quickly become one of my favorite series of games that I've played.
It's been a while, around a long time too, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, the first one came out in like early 2000s, and you know, this Yakuza game, the new one that just came out, is like the seventh one. So they had quite a bit, and it's interesting that like all the games besides this new one basically take place in the same map. So it's kind of odd, but it's like, it's the same map. They kind of just like update the textures for it, and they kind of like update the map a little bit during the years of transitions. Like the first ones are like in the 80s or whatever, and then it goes into the 2000s. So like some new buildings are built and whatnot, and they update to where you can actually go into more buildings. There's more interaction with the environment. So they've been just like they have this same map, same template, but they just keep updating it and making it better and better and better after each game. But now this one, the new one that came out, they have like a whole new map. It's like way larger than the original one.
Yeah, it is. I definitely have seen that the new game especially has just a lot of just content. I mean, a long playthrough if you decide to hit all the parts to that game.
Oh yeah, like one time I just did side missions. Like when I got home from work, I just did side missions. It was like at least 6 hours straight of just doing side missions, not even touching the main missions.
I always like games like that. Uh, Austin, are you into any kind of like open world games like that?
I played Fallout 4 for a while. I really enjoyed that game. I did notice though that like my anxiety about certain stuff made it sort of, I'm not going to say unplayable, but less enjoyable at times. I feel like if they could make some story modes like, I forget which one it was called, but it was like a horror game, but there was a game mode. It was like you wouldn't die, you know. And so I think if more games come out with those, they'd be a lot cooler. But yeah, Fallout 4. I was gonna play 76, but that game just turned out to be utter trash.
Oh
So
God.
I didn't play that. I bought it though. I paid the $60 for it. I was gonna play with my friends, and it just turned out to be garbage.
Yeah. Then 1 week later, it became free.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah, I've never gotten into the Fallout series.
Yeah.
Um,
One game
Austin,
though I was gonna bring up because I know I've played it some, and Kenny was gonna is F1 2020. This has the My Team finally. So basically, if you don't know, you make your own team in F1. You're a new team. You start at the back of the grid, and then you basically have to like fight your way forward um, in terms of car performance.
yeah, I mean, I've found why I don't like the game. And I think maybe next time around, maybe I'll buy it on console. Maybe that'll keep me more intrigued or engaged, but I don't like open wheel race cars from a driving standpoint. I I can drive them, but um, I they don't fit my style. They got way too much downforce. The braking is way too late. The turning points are like the turning is way too fine, I guess, too quick. Um, I guess
Precise.
snappy. Yeah. Um, just everything about them goes against the way I like to drive. And not to say I can't do it, but I think that's just like I did a practice. I went in, I was just doing like a test session at Melbourne, and I could do it, but it was just like it's just I just didn't like it. I don't like how the cars drive. Um, and I'm a person that likes to try to do full races if I am gonna do something like that. And I don't know. And I have so many other games in line that I want to play, both racing games and non-racing games. And this one just kind of adds to the list. So if it's not something I really, really like, it's going to have to get put to the back burner. So it's kind of what happened.
Yep.
I apologize, Austin, that I'm not.
No, it's all right. We couldn't have played together either, anyways, because I got it for Xbox. So it is really fun, though. I enjoy the game.
Now, I Justin's not so much into a game like a NASCAR game or an F1 game. However, we've played Forza for a long time, since about Forza 4 at
4.
least, yeah. And that was a fantastic game. But now, like, um, more recently, we've played Forza Horizon 4, where me, Justin, and Brody, and any of our other group members will get together, and what we'll do is um, we'll go to an event, and I will randomly pick what kind of cars or class or whatever we're going to run for whatever race it's going to be. So it could be off road or on road. So we could get weird combinations like supercars on a dirt track, and we'd have to go build a car special for that race, and then we'd show up together, completely surprise everybody in the group of who what we're racing, and then race them, and then just redo it all over again. It's actually really fun.
Yeah.
The next game we have to talk about, Kenny, you put this down, Call of Duty.
Yeah, so I've dabbled in the campaign. Justin's beaten the campaign already. I started it probably like I don't know 1 to 2 hours in. It's actually really good. I'm enjoying it so far. It's a little bit different than past Call of Duties, in that there's side missions and there's choices to make. That's basically all I'm going to say about it. Don't want to spoil for some other people, but um, basically you get to a point in the campaign and you end up unlocking other missions that you don't have to do, but you can, which is never a COD thing. A Call of Duty thing was always just linear completely. You got this story that you just follow. That's it. And also you have like some choices to make. That's I'm gonna leave it at that. But um, that's new too. And then I've been playing. I started playing multiplayer a little bit. Um, I mean, it's still just a first-person shooter. I mean, it's nothing like game-changing for me. It's not something I'll play all the time, but it's definitely fun. And I'm glad to see that the last two Call of Duties now have actually been quite good, where they went on a string of probably like 4 or 5 games that were terrible.
Yeah, that's the whole futuristic part where we'll have like a bunch of jump packs, backpack, and like wall running and where it's all like speed and momentum. That's where it kind of like went downhill for me.
Austin, you play first-person shooters at all?
Not too often, no.
I guess that.
I will dabble in the Call of Duties, but it's not very often.
I mean, it's kind of one of those things where, like, if you're a male and you own an Xbox or PlayStation, you have a Call of Duty game. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, definitely.
it kind of just is what it is.
Yeah, if you're a male between the age of like 12 to 30, you gotta have a Call of Duty game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can't not.
Yeah.
Just kind of is what it is. And even like, there's been years where I'm like, yeah, that game looks like it sucks, and then I'll still end up buying the Call of Duty game because everybody else has it.
Yep. And you don't want to miss out on the action.
Yeah. Then you're playing it and you're getting frustrated. You're like, man, this is terrible, and then you keep playing it for some reason.
Yeah.
Well, you get that one killer round in my case, and you're like, this is actually kind of fun, I guess, and it's a good time.
Yeah, for us it's like, you go positive, you get more kills than you get deaths, and you're like, okay, maybe, and
I'm
then
hot shit now, motherfuckers.
oh,
Look out!
oh yeah, then you get just thrown right back to reality. Like, okay, okay, shouldn't have been confident.
Yep, I understand.
Hmm.
We got one last topic for our guest here, and I want to talk about off-roading because I've always been like, we all have our certain like niche interest in cars, and for me, at least growing up, it was car shows because my parents, they both had show cars, and we'd go to car shows every week, and we'd enter in them and won quite a few trophies with the cars and stuff, and that was kind of my intro to the car world, which is why I'm interested in cars now, which is branched off to all kinds of different things like motorsports and that kind of thing. But car shows and motorsports were the first two things that have interested me with cars. And I'm curious too about Justin's and Austin's. Like, when what was like your first thing about cars that got you interested in cars? That's how I want to start the conversation.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Um.
just how cool they look, I guess.
I was gonna
Well,
say for cars in general, for me, it would have to be since my dad's been a mechanic for 35 plus years, and whenever I'd be at the shop once in a while, you'd see these crazy cars. Like just yesterday when I was over at the shop, working on stuff with my dad. There was a guy that had a pull in and he had a 1970 Cuda. It was all nice, like shiny metallic blue, and he brought it in just to get the exhaust done. And it was a really nice machine. And when you're little and you see those things, it's like, oh my God, this is a work of, just masterpiece. And you just you just marvel at this super muscular, just badass vehicle. And we're being with my dad for so long of doing that, that's what got me into you know kind of being into cars. But I'm more along the lines of more let's say on unorthodox stylings of vehicles.
yeah, I know. I know you've been into like Mad Max kind of things.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I like just the crazy combinations of having like this classic muscle car or sedan vehicle and like putting it on a like Jeep frame or K5 Blazer frame, lifting it up and putting some crazy paint job on it or something, and just sending her out, just hoonigan all over the place.
Now, Austin, was there like an event you went to, or something like that ended up being the first time when you were like, this is cool, like involving cars, like whether it be a race or a car show or a museum or something.
Not that I remember. I think one time my dad took us to some place like with his work, and there were some old cars, and one of them was a Jeff Gordon race car that like the door opened up and you could get inside and sit in it. That was the first thing I remember about going to a car show, but I've always liked them, I guess.
Yeah, and anybody in the chat too, if you feel like saying your origins of interest in cars, I guess, feel free to share. But
Um,
go ahead.
I would say for me, another thing is a long time ago, my at my grandma's house, she had a quad, a fairly large, like Polaris Scrambler, '96 Polaris Scrambler, which I have now. And I remember when I was little, so little to where my thumb couldn't even reach the thumb throttle. it's so my grandpa had to makeshift this pipe and like stick it on there so my thumb could actually reach it. And she lived way up north and she had like 50 some acres. Half of it was swamp and half of it was like dune for some reason. And I would just tear around, in the dunes with this big old quad and a kid that's not supposed to be in it. It says like nobody under 18, but I'm like 8 at the time with no safety equipment whatsoever, just tearing ass in the sand. And that's probably what really got me into liking off-road stuff, was that memory specifically.
It's kind of funny too because when we were little, um, your grandparents actually knew my some cousins of mine. So back when we were probably, I don't know, gosh, 8 or 10 or something, we we all went camping up at your grandparents for uh, like what was it? Was it like a birthday or something?
No,
Or was
it
it a
was an
anniversary or something?
auction deal to give away all the stuff that my grandpa owned because he passed away from brain
That's
cancer.
right.
So it's kind of like a auction giveaway thing.
Yeah, and it was kind of like a celebration kind of thing too.
Yeah.
And so I actually got to ride on that quad too with my cousin Greg, and I rode in that Dooney area. I remember that very vividly, and he just kind of set me on there, and he sat behind me, and we just kind of putted around, and I think he let me take the controls at one point, and I just kind of putted around a little bit. I didn't know what I was doing. Of course, no safety equipment at all, but I didn't get hurt. So, but yeah, so we fast forward to now, and you now own a 2008 Jeep Wrangler. You've rough-roaded a few times, and um, how's that been going?
Um, I've, I really like that Jeep. I'm glad that I paid the money that I did for it, and I pretty much bought it specifically for stuff like that. And I'm glad that it actually does that kind of thing. Because I'd be mad if I paid all this money and it doesn't perform as well as you know it should for that price. But we'd go to the dunes, you know, once in a while, and I've only gotten stuck once out there. That was because it was this really steep hill, and you know I got the unlimited, so it's the 4 door, so it's quite longer than the 2 door, and it was at a really windy season in summer, so this one peak was really pointed, and I get up there and I'm cruising. I get up there and I get most of the way and I slam down and now I'm stuck. I buried my like right at the rear axle on the top of this dune and I'm stuck. And I'm with a couple of my friends and my friend Tim is in his Cherokee and he's just even struggling to get up this hill. I mean, he had to take like 18 tries to get up this hill. And then when he got up there, he finally, got the rope and just tugged me, and it was not even that hard. He just pulled me just a little bit, and I got myself out. I mean, I was only stuck on the sand for maybe 6 inches or something, but it was enough to, catch me and not make me move.
And for those of you who don't know, we're at Justin's been going to Silver Lake Sand Dunes, which is in northern Lower Peninsula of Michigan. Um, Pretty iconic sand dunes. People come from all over the place to go there. We're lucky enough to live within an hour of the place, and um, that's probably one thing that's probably helping your interest too. Is that we know people who go out there all the time, and it probably helps pique your interest too when you can have friends to go out there with you.
Oh yeah, you definitely want other people to go out with you while you're out there, because like me, if I got stuck and I had no one else out there, it'd be like, oh no. Then you have to kind of like flag someone else out there. I mean, pretty much everyone out there is super cool and they're all prepared to help someone out if they get stuck. Everyone's got the equipment to tow someone or whatever. Some people have like giant rigs that have like onboard air to air up tires or have a bunch of tools and whatnot out there. So if something breaks, they can get you fixed out there. It's really cool. You know, you see really crazy just vehicles, awesome lifted trucks or crazy like long travel sand rails, just these monsters on the sand, and the people out there also are really cool.
Yeah, definitely nice to go with a buddy system for sure. But adds to the fun factor too when you got some friends to go along.
Oh yeah.
Austin, you ever been off-roading?
One time we got my dad's truck, and we took some back roads to go to the gravel pit up near our cottage up north, and then another time we went to trailblazing in our 1994 Jeep, and it was fun. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the most interesting thing to me, but it's definitely
It's
fun.
cool.
Yeah, like I went for the first time to Silver Lake actually. Well, not technically second time, a first time in like a residential vehicle um, with Justin on opening day this year, and so I we rode in the Jeep, and I just kind of taking it in and riding along, and it was pretty fun. You know, the key thing, the one thing you kind of have to get over is, man, you have to have your head on a swivel because it's so busy and there's no real rhyme or reason to where people are going. So they're just everywhere and it's crowded. Um, so that was one thing that kind of stood out to me. Some people are kind of idiots in that respect, but
Yeah,
um,
especially on opening day is, going to be way overcrowded than normal, and people are just so excited because, it was delayed more and more because of COVID. So once they did finally open, everyone's just going out there, just mouth foaming, just ready to get out there, and they're just tearing ass. And you'll just have like it's mainly like smaller vehicles like dirt bikes or quads. They'll just be zipping around and just crossing right in front of you. Not looking around. So you gotta watch out for them mainly.
yeah, the one thing I noticed too about like your Jeep is that like there's nothing like flashy about it on the dunes. It's not like loud or super fast or anything. It just kind of gets the job done. Like,
It just does what it does.
yep. And it's a not the greatest ride on the road, but it's a really nice smooth ride actually when you get onto the dunes. That's where it shines.
Now, that's the really weird thing is that like for some reason the ride is super stiff on the road and you feel like every single little bump, but as soon as you get onto the dunes, it's just like a pillow. It's crazy.
That's yeah, I'm sure a lot of off-road type vehicles are like that. Product of the suspension and the tires, just how everything's set up.
Yeah.
Well, Austin, you got any other like interviewee kind of questions for Austin? Anything or for Justin? Anything?
No, I think that's what we probably move on to the rants and reviews.
Okay. Well, but anyways, Justin, thanks for being our first actual guest on the podcast. I appreciate it. Take your time out of your Sunday to come hang out with us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you
no
so much for
problem.
doing this, man.
Yeah, just let me know if you want me to come back on here again. I'll be down.
Sounds good, man. Well, I'll talk to you later in the kitchen or something.
All right, sounds good.
All right, so we'll move on to our
Rants and reviews. I think the
yes.
first one we'll do is the NASCAR the Chase format. We'll probably delve into this another day, just because I know the other rant and review is it's going to be a wild one. Somebody's pretty hot under their hood. Um, so I guess the NASCAR Chase format been around since 2004. Basically, it's in the last 10 races of the NASCAR season. They zero out the points pretty much. And then for the last 10 races, they narrowed down about 10 guys that then it got increased to 12 and then 13 and now it's 16. And those guys basically have an all out mad dash to be the champion. Anymore, we have the more playoff format where it gets whittled down from 16 to 12 to 8 to 4 for the last race. I know a lot of people aren't happy about it. They don't necessarily like it, mostly because the person who does the best all season never wins or usually doesn't win. Usually, before the chase format, it'd be the best average finish would win the championship just because it's a marathon. Um, the whole season, you're going for points every time you can. Um, and usually it's just get lucky in the last couple races, and you could win 35 races out of the 36 race season and not be the champion because you have a flat tire in the last race.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest problem with it. I kind of stuck here though in a way because I've always been a fan of. I like parity. I like different people winning and competing. However, I do feel like people who deserve certain things should get them. Um, and it kind of stinks because, like, granted, this format makes things really exciting no matter what, which is an advantage to some people. But um, man, people just get screwed out of really really good seasons sometimes because of just because of one race. A lot of times you'd have a guy win more races than another guy and lose a championship in the past, but it's not because they were bad in one race. It's because they were bad in a few races at least. And I also hate too that you can, if you win and you're in, well now you can have a bunch of bad races. It doesn't matter until you know another point in the season.
Yeah, it doesn't matter until you get down to crunch time, which I know Dale Jr. mentioned it before too. I mean, you win the Daytona 500, you can basically dick around for the rest of the season.
Yeah, granted you're still going for playoff points and everything, and that kind of helps it, I guess, to make other races matter. But you're at least have a shot at the championship for the rest of the year. And like the Ryan Newman effect in 2014, didn't win a single race, which got in on points. What if he would have won the championship? Would that have totally scrapped out this idea of winning in? Because it
I
would have
really doubt it.
totally debunked the whole win to get a championship thing right from the get go. But I don't know. I like some of the elements of the new style. I like some of the elements of the old. Me personally, I wish it was a no chase format where it was 1 point per position. Give like a bonus point for leading a lap, bonus point for leading the most laps, maybe bonus point for fastest lap, and maybe that'd be it. And I don't like stages. I would actually rather have a playoff format with no stages.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, that'd be better. Well, the problem with stages, I'm a big fan of giving out points throughout the race because, for instance, at Atlanta in 2017 or 2018, Kevin Harvick led pretty much every lap, and in the final stage, he blew a right front tire and he was out of the race. Just done. His day was done. He couldn't race. He couldn't even finish the race anymore. But because he finished first in both the stages, he got a solid 20 points plus whatever he got finishing position, which is probably like 30th because of all the start and park piece of crap. But at least he got points for doing well the whole race. So I like it in terms of that, but I don't like the guaranteed caution.
yeah, and I don't like the guaranteed caution either because I mean, there's still strategy involved, but it really lessens it throughout the race. I mean, the real strategy is only if you're going to go stage points or not, and then the only strategy from then on is in the last stage. If you get a caution at a weird point in the last stage, it's the only time you're going to have strategy.
Yep.
Whereas I always thought it was interesting when you'd have a race go green all the way or something, and you have no idea when the caution's coming, if it's going to be in a pit cycle or something. You can't predict at all. And I like that feeling of kind of like being on the edge of not having any clue what's going to happen next.
Yeah, it's pretty nice just because you don't know when anything's going to come out. So you have guys, it really opens up the strategy playbook of short pitting, long pitting, double pitting, um, two tires versus four tires sometimes.
Yeah, I
And
mean
I feel like we're really
anymore,
getting robbed of that.
anymore it's basically like, oh, most of these guys are going to pit halfway in the stage, and then they'll have a few guys that'll pit a little bit earlier and a few guys that'll pit a little bit later, and that's about it.
And it also seems too like it really gives people an excuse to not do well or to try too hard to make the chase. Because if you don't make the chase, it's pretty much considered a bad year for you. But I feel like, some people can be happy with a 15th place points finish or a top 10 points finish. And it's also, I really enjoyed, coming down to the last three races. Like some people are out of it. You don't have eight guys possible, that have a possible chance of winning the championship, and you might not have four. Sometimes only one or two. That's okay.
Yeah, but then you get come to those times where one guy dominates the championship, whereas where if we were in the old style points, Kevin Harvick would have easily won the championship.
And that's still fine though. I feel like that's okay. I feel like there's still a race to watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm fine with it too. I don't like to see that, but I'm okay with dealing with that. Where a guy just, I mean, it's one of those things where it's kind of like a dynasty, where there's just a few guys or one guy that's just at the top of his career and he's just dominant right now, and I mean they're deserving. Whether I like it or not, that's not really what sports are about. And I'm not supposed to like every outcome in a sport, you know.
Yep.
Um, and that'd be, I wouldn't have liked to see Kevin Harvick just cruise to a championship, but he definitely would have been deserving. And I think I'm getting to the point in my life. I used to in sports. I used to absolutely hate when a guy would just dominate and break all the records and win everything. It was annoying. I'm getting to the point now where when there's like a special athlete or a special driver that's breaking records, like a Kyle Busch, I'm actually there's a part of me that actually wants them to keep winning and to keep breaking records just because you're not going to see that all the time. We might go another 20, 30 years with not ever seeing another driver like a Kyle Busch or a Jimmy Johnson or somebody like that. And so part of me wants them, yeah, let's see how far we can go with this before they retire. You have
Yeah,
any opinions on dynasties in sports like that?
I mean, I'm all for them. If you can be good enough to have them, I might not like you, but I appreciate what you've done and what you're doing in the sport. Like Jimmy Johnson, as much as I'm a Jeff Gordon fan, it really hurts to see him, break all the records that Jeff Gordon has, or just go out and dominate, for 10 years like he did, or win five championships back to back. Um, but someone's got to do it, you know.
Right. And I mean, I can live with this format, but I don't know. And there will always be people that are not happy. That's how it is. And I can definitely live with this, but I'd probably rather see a more traditional style point standings with 1 point per position. Definitely. I hated the old number point system,
Yeah, that was so weird. I really understand what's going on with that.
but it is what it is. Maybe it'll change in the future. Who knows? This is a ever changing sport that we're involved in. But oh, side note, Matt says there's 87 paid entries for tonight's Snowball Derby, which again I'll be broadcasting live on my Twitch channel. Um, yeah, I looked at that email this morning, and there's a lot of big names, and only I think 30 maybe make it in, maybe less than that, maybe a few more, somewhere in there. So it's not gonna be easy, but we'll try our best. But if we're done with the chase format rant, do you mind if I go on to the GSRC rant?
Oh, please do.
So I'm gonna be nice here because I love Global Sim Racing Channel. I like the people there. They're nice guys. I've worked with them before. I've seen firsthand how they work. They do a really good job. Um, it just so happens that a bad situation happened and it ends up kind of involving me. So last night in the Bootleg Racing League Grand National Series, um, long story short, I picked up my first ever win in the Grand National Series. And I I don't know, like everybody in there races for fun, and I race there for fun, but that doesn't mean I'm not trying really hard. I mean, I work really hard in those races to try to do the best that I can. And to go against somebody straight up, I went against J.R. Shepard straight up, and I beat him. Now, granted, I held him off. It's easier to hold somebody off than to pass somebody, but still, really difficult win. I didn't like luck into it. I had to fight for it. And I was just ecstatic after I won. And after every broadcast, there's post-race interviews with the top three. And so, I mean, obviously, I'm excited to talk to the guys on the live broadcast. I wanted to hear what JR had to say about the battle, too, and maybe Justin, too. Um, and I know I got friends and family that like to watch these every week, so I know they wanted to hear what I had to say and everything. And I'm in the waiting to interview room in our TeamSpeak channel, and all of a sudden I see the director leave. I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. The broadcast is still up. And then all of a sudden I get some private messages from Justin Morton and from J.R. Shepard saying, yeah, the broadcast has ended. It's not on anymore. I'm like, what the heck? So we see one of the commentary guys go up to the main chat room, so we follow him up there. And they had a technical issue, and so they ended the broadcast. And I totally get technical issues happen. I'm totally not. That's not a problem. I have technical issues on my end, make it so people can't see what they want to see. Totally get it. Where I kind of have a slight problem, though, where my rant is coming from is at the end, they lost picture of the race on lap like 88. They ran the rest of the race with no picture, just audio. Again, I'm fine with that. But then they ran through the results, and then they ended the broadcast. No interviews. They could have done interviews with no picture, just the voice. I mean, that's what the interview is anyways, is just voice. And that was I'm not being biased because like I won or anything, but that was like the best finish that we've had all season long, and it got missed and nobody got to talk about it. And that's where I'm a little bit upset. Because I know they had another broadcast to go up to. But I'm pretty sure that they could have just shortened that one up at the beginning because all they were doing was warming up. And they could have still got their broadcast in. And they still could have talked to us. So that's just I mean, I still have huge respect for GSRC. It's just really unfortunate that now my first wins on the broadcasted series for GSRC. One of them I got later on via a technicality because the guy that was second jumped the last restart and beat me to the finish line, got to do all the celebrating, and then they gave the win to me via the rule book later on. So I didn't get to celebrate that one. And then now this one, I got to celebrate, but I didn't get to celebrate in the live booth and do, everything that a winner gets to do. And hopefully we can go out and just get another win and completely nullify all that. And I'm still, hugely excited and happy that we were able to pull one off like that. But just unfortunate situation, and it's not really anybody's fault, but just I was just hoping that I was going to be able to talk to GSRC. Do you have any input from your perspective on that whole deal that happened?
Nah, I think you covered it pretty well. But yeah, I'd have been pretty ticked if when I was able to be interviewed, they hadn't have given me the opportunity. And I know it's out of their control, but still, it seems weird.
I know with a guy like JR, I mean, he wins all the time, so it probably wouldn't have bothered him that much. But with it being my first and not knowing if I'll ever win another one, I never know if I'll even get the opportunity again. But we got 3 more races in the season, and I have an 8-point advantage over Justin Morton in the championship, so we're hoping to seal that one up. 3 races to go. I'm hoping we can get a championship. That'd be really awesome. Anyways, on a more like light-hearted note, we'll move on to our last segment of the day, and that's the getting around to it section, which is pretty much the same as it has been since last week. But I will update you that one of these things I actually got done this week. I didn't do it. I had a friend of mine do it while I was at work. Had a friend of mine replace my bathroom sink because my bathroom sink was basically just barely working. So there you go. My bathroom sink was doing that for probably like 6 months. Finally got around to having that done.
Yeah, Kenny puts his bathroom sink through the ringer, folks. Let's be real.
Oh yeah, drinking out of it and washing my hands. I mean, who even does that? And cleaning my toothbrush. Jeez.
Yeah, good lord.
I mean, do people even use their bathroom sinks?
No, no one does. They've been outlawed here. So,
Oh, was that
no,
just
man.
an Eastern Michigan thing? Because the whole
No,
Flint water thing or something?
no, that's just a joke.
Okay. Well, I was joking too.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Oh,
Yeah,
I digress.
kind of like the podcast.
Yeah, the whole podcast is a joke. So kind of it's
We
just
take it semi-seriously.
yeah. But I mean people probably look at it and be like, "Wow, that's a joke." That kind of thing.
Yeah, well, yeah. I
But
mean, it is what it is.
but like you say, it be what it be.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
any
NASCAR models. I
yeah,
painted mine. I got to put the decals on them. Waiting on some micro sole to get here, which would be a good time.
micro soul.
Yep.
So I hope that Brian streams his model making again. That was really interesting. I don't know hardly anything about model making, so it's actually kind of interesting to just watch how it works and be able to just kind of chill out and hang out in the stream.
Yeah, I just like to hang out with Brian. He said he might do it today from like 3 to 4 because he also wants to watch you do your race. So
Which
we'll
is
see.
nice of him.
Hmm.
That's Rusty Buttons, by the way. Anybody that wants to watch that channel, Rusty_Buttons, Buttons. Um, and I haven't done any official iRacing grind this past
Ah,
week.
jeez. Do you even
Eh,
want to do your iRating up?
yeah. I mean, the last like a week or two ago, I ran some races and lost like 100 I rating, and I'm like, I don't want to do this right now. And then this week we got these special events that have been going on, so I really had time this particular week, but maybe over the break, the Thanksgiving break that we got, we'll do some grinding with the I rating. We'll see. I think that basically wraps us up. I don't remember how long the first episode was. This one we've been recording for an hour and 49 minutes, so probably about hour and 40 minutes of it was podcast. So that was
Yeah, it's been a long one today.
that was a. I'd rather have a long podcast than a short one, and if we can get these between an hour and 2 hours every time, that's pretty much goals for me.
Oh yeah.
Um, Great to have Justin on board as our first guest. Cool to have him on. Next week we'll have a new guest. I will not spoil it, um, but I think everybody
Well,
will enjoy
after
it.
Thanksgiving, so we're looking at December
Yes,
6th for that one.
good point. Yeah, we will not have any podcast over Thanksgiving weekend. So next Sunday, the next Sunday after that, 10 a.m. We'll most likely be back at it.
Should be a good one.
Oh yeah, definitely. This is going well so far. I like that we're putting out content. But hope everybody else enjoyed it. Thanks to Austin for helping me out here and doing this thing. Thanks to Justin for joining us on the broadcast today. And yeah, we'll head out and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Good luck and Godspeed.
Peace.